Greetings and welcome to another Lessons with Odin. On this episode I will be showing you how to make a different kind of beaded bezel. Now you might be familiar with this piece as it is the base from this, the Alter Ego set, and I think it's a very useful bezel because you have a lot of anchor points on this base so that you can kind of outgrow and create and expand a pendant into something much more magnificent. And it's just very sparkly and very pretty in its point because you have, for example, these 3mm beads that can be used as nice anchor points. You have these 15O seed beads that are kind of flailing around and loose, so you can attach something to that. There's 2 of them here. You have a 4mm bicone all the way in the back, so you can make a nice back row with something a lot more expansive and with bigger beads such as spikes or daggers, and it just has a very pretty appearance overall. You can even use this reversible. Like for instance, I have the 3mm on the front on this example. There are 4mm in the back. See, with this piece, I've used the same exact bezel, except I just flipped the Rivoli around. So for this one, this has the 3mm pearls on the front. This one has the 4mm bicones in the front, and they both make a different, interesting technique, which is really spiffy. So you can see the back with that, and yeah. So, I will be showing you how to do that bezel so you can make your own creations. And speaking of your own creations, have you joined us on Facebook yet? We have a lovely group of beaders who will share their creations and share with our color inspirations, and it's a lot of fun. You should totally join the discussion. I'll leave a link down below to the Facebook group, and I invite you. Come hang out with us because it's cool. And I am working in progress of the PDF pattern for this piece in its entirety, as well as a Skillshare class for it. So stay tuned for that, and in the meantime you could totally check out my other PDF patterns and my Skillshare classes, and I will leave a link down below if you want to check them out. So yes. So for this piece, you will need 14 3mm bicones. Now I haven't tried with any other shapes yet, like rounds or what have you. Rounds tend to be a little bit bigger, so if anything I would try using maybe 2mm might work too, if you want to have fun with that. Fire polish would be okay. But basically play around with it and see what you come up with. 7 4mm bicones. 7 3mm rounds. I'm using Crystal Iridescent Pearl for that one. I love that color. A 14mm Rivoli or cabochon. And 15O seed beads. And of course, your needle and thread. I am using Fireline for once, because this is also... I'm cheating and I'm making part of my other color Alter Ego at the same time, so yes. Anyway, this is a size 12 needle as well. So, let us get started. So the start of the bezel is basically just writing a weave where we alternate different sizes of beads. So for my first set, I'm going to be adding on 1 3mm, 1 15O, 1 3mm, and 1 15O. Gonna pass that down my thread, leaving a bit of a tail. I'm not going to be using my tail once again, so we just need it long enough to rework into our piece and end. Once we have those threaded on, I'm just going to pass my needle back through them so that we form a loop. Then I'm going to tie an overhand knot using my working thread and my tail. Once that is done, I'm going to pass my needle through the 15O seed bead, but I'm not going to pull too tight so that the knot doesn't get trapped in there and make a mess for us. Next up, I'm going to add 3 15O seed beads and pass back through the first one we started with. And we end up with that. Now I'm going to move up to the top bead here. Then I'm going to add another connection by putting on 3 seed beads, passing back through my original seed bead. Once again, I'm going to move up to the top bead of this section. Once I've done that, I'm going to add 1 3mm, 1 15, 1 3mm, pass back through the top bead on our chain. Then I'm going to reinforce this segment by passing around once more. Alright, now I'd highly recommend not reinforcing these chains with just the seed beads in case you need to pass through a couple of times over. It can put a lot of tension on these beads, and you can risk snapping them if you have to go through too many times. So if you don't reinforce them. It'll make it nice and flexible and allow us to work with it. So now that my thread is coming out of this top bead here, we're going to add 3 more seed beads and pass back through that same bead. We're going to continue on just like we've done before, making 2 chains of size 15 seed beads, then 1 chain of 3mm until we've used up all our 3mm. Alright, so I have my finished bezel base here with all 7 of my sets of 3mm on there. I'm going to go ahead and add 1 more seed bead row on top of this crystal here before I stitch everything together. Then I'm going to move over to the top bead of that segment, and then I'm going to fold my piece in half. And I'm going to make it so that the top 2 seed beads meet. So the top bead of this 4 seed bead loop meets the top seed bead of this 3mm loop. I currently have them parallel to each other, so I'm just going to add 1 more seed bead. And my thread is coming out of the top side of this pair, so I'm just going to pass down through, downwards, then add 1 more, and move up through the first bead we started from. This will finish our right angle weave, and we've added another circle of 4. And also our second set to connect these 2 pieces together. I'm going to reinforce this circle so that it kind of doesn't pull apart like it wants to. Once I have finished reinforcing, I'm just going to move through a 3mm bead. Now we're going to start working on the sides of the bezel, so I've added on 1 size 15, 1 3mm round, 1 size 15, and I'm going to pass through to the next 3mm on the round. Once more, I add 1 size 15, 1 3mm round, and 1 size 15, move over, and pass to another 3mm bicone on the bezel. Repeat that all the way around until you've used all of your beads. Once you have finished that, reinforce by passing through all the beads once more and cinch everything together. Once you have finished that, make sure you are coming out of a 3mm round. Next up, I'm going to add 2 seed beads and pass through the next 3mm round. It will pinch those 2 beads together. Repeat that all the way around until you've done all 7 sets. And then reinforce. And that is what we end up with. Now we need to work on the front side. So I'm currently coming out of a 3mm round. I'm going to move up through a seed bead and a 3mm bicone. Then continuing with the right angle weave, I'm going to move up, seed bead here, change direction and move through the opposite 3mm bicone. Next, I'm going to figure out what side of my Rivoli I want in the purl side, and I'm going to place it in. Then I'm going to take 1 4mm bicone and pass it through the next 3mm on the round, just like we did with the 3mm rounds on the front side. Repeat that all the way around until you've completed all 7 beads, and reinforce. And that is what your back should look like. Make sure your thread is coming out of a 4mm bead, and we're going to take 2 seed beads and pass through the next 4mm bead. That all the way around until you've completed the set, and then reinforce. Then you can end your threads, and that is what you end up with. A lovely base to create larger projects, and it's just kind of a nice anchory piece and sparkly, and yeah, it's very good for your projects. So I hope you enjoyed this Lessons with Odin, and please join me in the Facebook group. I would love to see what you create. And I hope to see you on my Skillshare classes as well. We're going to be doing some exciting things, and I keep posting at least once a month, but possibly more. But this referral code will give you 99 cents for your first 3 months, which is a spiffy deal. Yes, I will leave all pertinent links down below. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If there are any other patterns or requests you would like me to do, drop me a comment and I will see what I can do to make that happen. And of course, if there's anything I need to be trying out right now, feel free to leave me a comment down below, and I will see you next time.